safe, staying healthy, being well. Welcome to a little video series we've created to sort of maybe respond and help you through what's been a really interesting few months. We're in the spring of 2020. We're fighting a global pandemic. We're fighting racial injustice. There's a lot that we have to sort of wrap our head around, understand, find our place in it all at the same time while trying to run our businesses, help our clients, hone our craft, and be better at what we do. When really everything that's going on is changing the way we do things and how we do it. It's a very complicated time, and we wanted I wanted to reach out to people in my network and the Mad Knights network to have conversations with industry veterans that have been through challenging times before and have navigated through those times and had come out better the other side, and really had some advice and insight to share that I thought you would get some value from. We'll get into our first conversation here in a minute. Just really quickly, if you don't know what a Mad Knighter is or what Mad Knights is, a Mad Knighter is a marketer or a designer that is part of our greater community. What is the Mad Knights community? Mad Knights is started out 7 or 8 years ago as a meetup for marketers and designers, just a small group of passionate people living and working in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. A smaller market to do business in, and really wanted to get better and add more value to their clients and grow their businesses. Over the sort of more recently, we've been recording these meetups and these conversations as a podcast. I'm also very excited to announce we're going to be releasing a second podcast called Mad Knights Big City, where we have conversations with marketers and designers that are working in larger markets, places like Toronto, New York, Calgary, Vancouver, LA, San Francisco. Some of these and doing great work in sort of on that scale and sort of share their advice and experience with people in the marketing and design space and that community as well. So very excited about that. Just one housekeeping item. I would like to thank Cheeky Monkey Media for all of its support almost over the past 5 years that we've been doing Mad Knights. You can certainly find them and look them up and learn more about what they're doing and why they're such a good fit for Mad Knights and the community. So let's talk about Chris Gokiert for a minute. Chris is the current president and soon to be, this was announced a little earlier this year, CEO of Critical Mass. Who is Critical Mass? Critical Mass is a experience design agency based out of Calgary, but they're global. They have 950 employees worldwide. They have 11 offices worldwide. They've had clients like Mercedes-Benz. They work with Nissan, AT&T. I mean, they're the real deal, and I'm really excited to be able to speak with Chris, who's been with the company since almost the beginning. I think they were 35 strong when he started, and he's been key in building the company to where they are today. So I wanted to get Chris's insight. I mean, it hasn't all been roses for Critical Mass. So they've been through some tough times, and they've found their way through them. And he's got some really great insight and advice, some things that we should try to remember as we're going through times like this, and when we can focus on our businesses, how we can do that, and come out of these challenging times perhaps stronger than when we went into them. So, without any further ado, let's get into the Mad Nights conversation with Chris Gokiert. Thanks.
So how are you?
I'm doing really, really well. Busy, it's a crazy time right now,
Yeah.
obviously, goes without saying.
Yes.
And, I think the impacts that it has just on your family and your own situation, business, your coworkers, your clients, it's interesting. So,
Yes.
uh, yeah,
Are you working from home right now?
yeah, yeah. We decided pretty early. Well, maybe not that early, but probably around, I think I think it was like 16th of March or something like that. We actually decided that we'd go from a work from home perspective.
Hmm.
I myself had just come back I was in London, our London office, and the minute I landed, I got basically got notification that we weren't allowed to. I actually had to quarantine for 2 weeks because of what Alberta Health wanted to do. So I was a few days ahead of the curve, but then everyone just started working from home. So I had to live in the basement for a couple weeks. As a company, really easy for us to go remote. We were able to
Yeah.
do that very, very quickly just because of, um, we've always been working remote. We've had this idea of liquid talent as a company for quite some time. So we've looked at trying to hire the best people no matter where we can get them. And so while we may have offices or people embedded with clients, a lot of times we have relationships with individuals who just may be in places who are not with our clients um, or with our staff. So in order to do that, you have to be able to work remotely with the different tools and setups. And so we're able to do that fairly quickly. It's not 100%. You definitely miss some stuff, but we're able to do it at ease. I think more easily than a lot of other companies were.
That's a term I saw in doing some research today. Just I think you mentioned it in other interviews, that term liquid talent, and
Hmm.
I hadn't heard it or heard it used in that way. So is that another term for remote talent? Can you explain that a little
Yeah.
bit more?
So uh, we've we got creative pretty early in terms of, I guess if you go back to the genesis of the company, starting in Calgary, first ever client, Mercedes-Benz USA out of Montvale, New Jersey, um, kind of means that, you have to figure out a way to, and we used to talk about a hub and spoke quite a bit. And that hub and spoke was really our way of saying we'd have people in, let's say, Calgary, a certain office, and
Hmm.
then, we'd have individuals by clients. So we always were into remote. Most individuals really like the idea, most people, like everyone likes to be with teams and they like people in the same, room as them. Every office is the same. Doesn't matter if it's our London office, LA office, Calgary office, New York. People will always be like, oh, they like to have individuals by them. That's just natural. It's easy. You can reach over, you can say hi, what have you.
Yeah.
But we started realizing, when we had individuals first probably started when people started to leave Calgary and they would move to other offices, how we had to work into our office. And then we started to have individuals who wanted to make life changes and life moves. So they would move to different locations. And we're like, well, we don't want to lose that person. So why don't we try to keep them? And and by doing so, we kind of had this idea of remote work. And then what we realized was, especially we had a big growth spike a couple of years ago, that we need to get really creative. We had people, especially in New York, who didn't want to live in New York anymore, too expensive, or didn't want the big commute. So they're like, I'm moving to Boulder, I'm moving back to Michigan, whatever it may be. And we said, we need to kind of formalize this. And so um, didn't like the sound of remote work. We didn't think
Yeah.
it really talked about what it was. It was more that with the idea of liquid talent is we were able to kind of spread out, and there may be droplets in certain places, and but it can get pulled together in the larger kind of pool of critical mass at any time. So that's kind of,
So
that's just the approach.
does it help with the with spinning up for some larger
Yep.
projects and sort of paring
Yep.
down and that
Yep.
sort of thing as well? So just liquid being very flexible and
Totally flexible.
yeah, and
You know, it depends on the client. You know, some clients will want to have their team right by them. You know, we have, you know, with Cupertino, we have people who are embedded with Apple. I mean, obviously not now, just because everyone's working remotely, or clients in LA, for accounts that we have down there with AT&T. We have people who are there because they need to be by the client. A lot of other clients, they just want to make sure that you have the best talent. They want it to be seamless. So we've always looked at how do we get beside a client, close to a client with the individuals that are there, and then you know, kind of just find the best people to work. Not everyone could work remotely. Sometimes
Mhm.
liquid talent may be a couple people in a city. Like we've done projects where we realized there was some talent in Detroit, as an example. So we were able to find a bunch of individuals there, and so we kind of popped into a WeWork space. You know, we basically created a little team that would work as a group, and saves us in overhead in terms of
Yeah,
like having to spin up offices everywhere.
yeah,
Helps us in flexibility of finding talent. You know, it's not for everybody. Before the situation we're in, there are certain people who just always want to be in an office,
hmm
but you know, we're seeing that change quite a bit.
yeah. I in a previous job I worked remotely, and it was in technology sales, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I was as passionate about the work as I am
Yeah.
in this industry. And
Mm-hmm.
so I found, and as a contractor, I found working from home very difficult. And so when I started here, we're in the offices right now.
Oh,
At least our core Kelowna team, just a BC kind of
yeah.
sort of opened up, but I think I was just reading today that a lot of the businesses in BC are finding the restrictions around opening up to be too costly
Mm-hmm.
or restrictive. So even though we're opening up, I don't think we're actually opening up. But
Yeah.
we were able to at least have our Kelowna team come back into the office, and
Yeah.
I think we were all very comfortable working from home, and it certainly helps when you're passionate about what you're doing
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. But I know for me, I could immediately feel the difference being able to, you know, collaborate with the team
Mm-hmm.
and just feed off of their excitement and have them feed off of mine and just be in the room that way. It's made a difference. I'm sure we can do it. We can work remotely, but I'm preferring the office work for
Yeah,
myself.
we definitely see a spectrum. I mean, we have individuals who just love it. You know, they're set up right at home. They got the right bandwidth. They
Yeah,
feel they're more productive.
yeah,
Maybe they don't want to do the commute,
yeah,
whatever it is. Then we have the other side of individuals just like want to get back into the office, or they really missing some of the. But you know, everyone's adjusting.
hmm
It is individual. Like that's one thing we've learned in this is that, you know, we've always talked about, you know, our organization even has grown, like we're, you know, closing in on, you know, 950 people or so right now. That, you know, we've always talked about it as just a collection of inspired individuals. And we kind of take that into everything we do is while you can't have a completely bespoke experience for an employee, you definitely have to take in everyone's considerations and try to find the collective things that work for everybody. And then where we can be flexible where we can. Liquid talent obviously was one of them. And I think, you know, we've been able to take that in with very, very good response from our employees, how we've been looking after the employee first in all of this, you know, and trying to make as much flexibility, you know, kind of just because everyone has different needs. You know, some people don't
yeah.
have childcare, you know, some people,
Homeschooling.
myself, we renovated our house a while ago and it's extremely nice, open plan, clean lines, hardwood everywhere, means it is the loudest place in the world, which does not work that well when you've got 2 dogs, 3 kids. Everyone's doing Zoom classes on with their friends, whatever. So
yeah.
yeah.
So you found a quiet corner anyways for this call.
No, I was actually on a call with a partner of ours today, and he's like, hey, every time we talk to you, you're in a different room. I said, well, one, my house isn't that big, but it's because I'm always moving to try to find out where the family isn't.
Yeah.
So in this case, people were upstairs, so I said, hey, I'm just going to be in our kind of kitchen area. So I could be interrupted at any time, like you're seeing on pretty much every Zoom,
Yes,
WebEx
absolutely.
call, Microsoft Teams call, whatever. So
Absolutely. So you've been with the company since 1998.
yeah,
Is that right?
part of
Yeah.
the furniture, Yep.
And we talked just prior to this call, just sort of trying to get a sense of what we were going to talk about, so I understand that the company continued to grow until 2008, and you said that you had some ideas to share around there, because that was a at least a North American financial crisis.
Yep.
I know you've worked in the automotive space, and I know that they were hit hard. I don't know if it affected any of your clients at the time, but maybe you could take us back to 2008 and just kind of, or in and around that time, and let us know how Critical Mass and yourself were impacted during that period.
Yeah, I mean, there was a number of crashes and kind of after 9/11, and there was a lot of changes that did impact our business throughout. Like, we always had kind of a steady curve, or line going up as an organization. But there were times, when, we had to make tough decisions like everybody does. And, when you consider yourself a company that works after a number of individuals, as a group of individuals, when you're small, it almost, because everyone's so connected in the same building or on the same floor, those decisions are really, really hard. When you get bigger, they don't get easier, but I think because stuff happens in a distance, it just has a different feel to it, but it's something that we've tried to avoid at every cost. And even now, we've been lucky in this current environment where we figured out some plans in terms of how we run our business, that allows us to be a lot more flexible. If you go back to that 2008, 2009 kind of period, we had we lost. I should have gone back and looked at the exact terms, but I think at least probably about 40% of our revenue, with a number of large clients. Some of it exacerbated by the kind of financial situation that was going on. Some of it was time, but it was too coincidental. It all hit at that time. Perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
And you get that sometimes, right? Especially in the client service business, right? Sometimes your contract comes up to an end. Sometimes something could be needling a client, what have you. We generally have long relationships, but at that time we had, major client losses. 3 of the biggest were like Dell and Rolex and Mercedes-Benz. And Mercedes-Benz was a bit of a kind of we saw the writing on the wall and we just actually walked away, and that hit us hard. And, then you had like, Dell, which was making a major change, and there was the whole cost savings plan. And then, you had Rolex, which kind of got caught up in the whole Bernie Madoff kind of, I wouldn't directly say that they're part of Bernie Madoff, but
Right.
like that, everything that was happening at that time, right?
It's like a domino effect.
And luxury watch market and everything. So,
yeah.
So when we saw everything dry up, and you saw, like, I mean, it was not cool. Like, we had to basically shut down floor in our office, and it was really, really hard for us to deal with. Um, what we started to look at is really basically a rejuvenation of what we did. And, we weren't really strategic about it. We knew we had a core offering that would work really, really well. And we knew that our clients were very happy, and, the economic situation wasn't great. But we didn't, it wasn't necessarily overly strategic. It was actually a lot of hustle. Going back to our strengths, which is our ex-clients, we had new business opportunities, and we got really just aggressive in terms of not necessarily pricing by any stretch of the imagination, but by actually just kind of dusting ourselves off and saying, all right, the only people who are going to get us out of this is this room. And we'd have that conversation with individuals in the company. We're like, look at, we can cry over spilled milk. It wasn't good. We had to make some tough choices, but, we need to get back to our centering, kind of what we really do well. And we just need to go look at these opportunities and close them. And I think we closed I don't know, at the time, I believe it was like 8 pitches in a row. And we just started to dramatically build on our client set, and, had great relationships that basically lasted for another 8 to 10 years from that point on. So it was really like, it's funny because everyone looks for some magic sauce, but it was really just us as leads looking around the room and looking at each other and just saying, all right, who do we know? What's our value proposition? What do we have in the hopper? And how do we make sure we just close every every
Oh, that's good.
I
like
every pitch. Just that was like, there was no going back. And there's a real camaraderie and sense of purpose. We got lucky. Sometimes you make your own luck. We absolutely, ran ex-clients, happened to see something, and because we reached out at the right time and we had the right value proposition, we were all in. You never try to come across as desperate, because then they think there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But there was approach where we just became really, really confident that we had something that people wanted in the marketplace. I mean, of course it was digital, but we took some flyers, like because at that time, a lot of our big work, because the way the digital space worked is, where we started CD-ROMs, went into websites, and the beginning of back in our glory days with Mercedes-Benz, we did everything, media buying and, all the digital campaigns and the sites and everything like that. And, with Dell, a lot of it was site work, and we had done PG.com, and we'd done, like Pampers sites. So we had while we did marketing, a lot of the traditional agencies were coming in, and our media buying was kind of going down a little bit. But, we basically came in on so we had sites, but, we ended up winning Clorox in that time period as well. And that was it was a site win, but it grew by us actually just getting really, really savvy around what you need to do from a campaign perspective. So getting your foot in the door and then showing value and growing out. And those are the basic principles of business. I mean, I know it doesn't sound very strategic. I'm not going to quote business books. I do think you have to be clear in your value proposition when you talk to a client. You have to make sure that you deliver on the ask. You always have to make sure that you go in with an ask plus to get them thinking about possibility. But they have to trust you. And we just hit a magic run where, we worked as a team, and it was our Calgary office and, our Chicago office. We're doing well everywhere. And, that was just something that we just kind of leaned into and done, and we just did a great job.
Have you had
not a fancy answer?
No, it really resonates with me. Actually, it's the type of conference. This business started in 2008, so it was growing because it had found a niche, and and those are because this is our first time through this. That's the type of conversations we're having. I'm seeing out in the marketplace and in our business, in our industry, it almost seems like there's two approaches. There's the, well, we're gonna look inward, and we're going to retool, refine our messaging, and do all this stuff, and then there's the other approach where it's like, no, let's get out there and fight, and let's find something, and continue to build this business even in the tough times. And I think those battles and flexing those muscles make you even stronger coming out of it on the other side.
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, there's there's the introspection that you need to have, and I think it's good to have introspection. But we did this. We did the whole good to great thing, or kind of people on the bus and off the bus, and kind of the business books of the past. And we talked about blue ocean, and there's good work that's in there. Or recently, one of our not recently, a while ago, our clients talking about eat big fish and how you be a challenger brand, and there's don't get me wrong, there's good stuff in each of those things. So, and it's sometimes good to really, but to think about what your value is, and that to me is like any business, as is that there is somebody who is looking for a problem to be solved. And the question is if you're going to solve that problem for them, if you're going to make it easier, if you're going to make it better. And I think sometimes you should never misrepresent yourself, right? Because ultimately then you're going to break down trust. And quite frankly, one of the reasons our brand has been so successful is because we're very trustworthy. We very rarely have clients that are short-term. They're almost all long-term. But the idea of really kind of trying to figure out what the value is that you can provide to the client, and being honest about it, because I find where you fail is when you're trying to sell somebody something they don't want, right? Just because you have something doesn't mean that somebody wants it. You have to look at it the other way. What do they want? What do they need? And how do you supply it for them? And I know most people say, oh yeah, I know that, but okay, then, why do most businesses not grow? And sure, there's ways to buy acquisition, and you get lucky, and there's all sorts of stuff. And we've had our share of luck. Don't get me wrong. We've really had our share of luck over the last one.
Hard work breeds luck too, though, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get bad luck. Like I said, around the 2008 period, we were like, it was nonstop. We're just like, holy shit! Like, how do we take yet another hit? Being confident in what you have, being honest about what you can provide, and looking at filling those gaps, will get you through that.
So have you needed to employ that sort of same approach during these times, or is this crisis looking different than the 2008 for you guys?
I mean, I think the situation is a little bit different. We're probably more embedded at the center of our client's business than we ever have been, just because you think about what digital was 10 years ago to today. Where digital kind of runs through pretty much every piece of advertising, fulfillment, anything a client does. You really get kind of tied into their business. We've got big relationships with big global national companies, and I think the pandemic, you have to just look at a piece of paper, or pick up a paper, or read a paper online, go on your social feeds. It doesn't take long to start to look at which businesses are being challenged, because every business is being challenged, because every person who's working is being disrupted in some way, shape, or form, which means that there's going to be challenges in terms of consumer confidence or consumer spending. And that has an impact. And when we're, while clients, have been great, I think we've been adding a lot of value to our clients, because they need stuff right now. Like they need to be relevant in brand, or they need to be helped to be more efficient. They need, help with their messaging or their platforms, whatever it may be. What we have done is, I guess, taken a bit of that same attitude that we've always had and really dug in and said, okay, what do they really need? Because our book of work was blank, like not blank, but this X. And now it's made up of different priorities for them. And some things got completely deprioritized. Some things go way up. There's things that we haven't even thought of.
How about you personally? Like, what have you been doing to sort of lead your company through this tough time? And I'm sure you've had dark days. How do you respond to those times?
You know what? I've been pretty lucky. We've got a great company with great clients. So even though it's tough, when people are all in it together, that definitely a little bit uplifting from a spiritual perspective. Personally, my entire way of working has been disrupted. I'm usually in clients' offices, in teams' offices, on a plane, kind of traveling, out engaging. So my ability to kind of think about things and be able to, that's what I use my plane rides for. It's ways for me to think about work. Being in different cities and talking to different clients and partners is very stimulating, because you're just getting so many different points of view, and you're I like to soak it all in. And so it's different when it's on video conference. It's different when it's on the phone. And then trying to motivate your employees and talking about it is different. I think because I did all that, we have obviously a period where we're able to build and our relationships keep going. But forging new relationships with new clients won't be that easy. We've had a couple that we just onboarded. We won some business, and we just started onboarding it just at the beginning of this whole thing. And we've been able to do it, which is fantastic, because I think everyone's in the same boat. To motivate employees, a lot of that, it's just like, we have a fantastic company. There are people in our company, because we're always looking at our employee experience, because we're just looking at everyone and how do we inspire our employees. We have a large team, and I wouldn't even say large team in number for what we call our talent team. It's more, they're so focused and energetic about coming up with plans to help our talent. So if we have an idea, or they bounce ideas off of us, and our CEO, Diane, Di is, just an amazing leader who kind of provides a clear vision for all of us, and she's very positive. And when you start having a combination of a good leader, a lot of people who know the organization, a lot of people who are dedicated to talk about it, it's hard work, but it's fulfilling because it works. So we amped up communication right away. Basically meetings that we would have, probably we used to do town halls once a quarter. They're coming out every few weeks. Our kind of worldwide leadership that we have as an organization was only, there'd be calls intermittently throughout the year. Now we're, having them kind of every 2 weeks, and we did a thank you video for employees. It was internal, but I decided to roll it live. So you can find it on YouTube,
Okay,
or our channels. I don't think it's on YouTube. I think it's in our critical mass social channels, where our worldwide leadership said thank you to our employees. We've tried to be extremely flexible. We've looked at just letting them know that we understand. because we've had business preparedness, as I said, the ability to work remotely. We've also had the ability to, we didn't ramp up and open up offices everywhere and hire full-time people everywhere. Like, we also use a balance of contractors and partners and liquid talent and whatever. So we're able to manage our costs. So you don't have to, make tough decisions yet, and you're
Right.
able to keep your business going. And, that's kind of the way, your employees feed off of that. When they see that your confidence as leadership team, when you see that you're listening or you're trying to do what you can,
Mm-hmm.
and you're very understanding about everyone's situation, you get a great response, and we have to modify it, because what worked 2 months ago doesn't hold any water anymore, right? Because the new
Everything's
normal
evolving.
is changing every day.
Yeah. So, do you have any ideas, sort of based on your experience in this industry and what you've seen and what you've gone through over the years? What our industry is going to look like so you mentioned that 2 months from now or 2 months ago looks completely different from 2 months, that from today looks completely different from 2 months ago. I mean, do you have any idea of what we could be looking at, what our industry could look like? And I mean, right now I mean, let's face it, there's going to be some businesses in our industry that aren't going to make it.
Yeah.
There's going to be some people that were employed in those organizations or other organizations that may be going freelance or maybe looking for work. What agencies that I'm talking to are other friends are saying, we're looking at first quarter, maybe next year, of things going back to the way they, sort of pre-COVID. What are you guys sort of talking about and thinking in terms of what is our industry going to look like? And is it going to be different? Is it, are we going to be back in our offices, or do you think we are going to just embrace this and work with it going forward?
The one thing the last 2 months has kind of taught me is I don't think we really know what's going to exactly happen. I've never claimed to be a futurist. I do think there's going to be some sort of semblance of what normal is that people want to get to. I do think some of the norms that we had are going to disappear. The question is to what degree. I think that there will probably be more tolerance for liquid talent situations from other places of work. Like, we would do it all the time, but other agencies wouldn't. And now you've hearing people talking about, oh, we can do this and work from home. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, everything we're called crazy for however many years now, everybody thinks is right. I do think you're probably going to see some people not want to go into offices or not want to be traveling as much. I do think consumer business habits, are going to change in terms of what their expectations from businesses are. I do think that a lot of the plans that, if you start to look at different kind of indicators out there, you go look at large cities like have in Milan, I think London's doing the same thing, where they had plans for 2030 to basically more radically change their cities and make their cities more friendly for bikes and have less lanes for cars and whatever. They're bringing a lot of that, they're bringing all that money forward because they realize they have to do it now. I think if you go look at, just go look at what Shopify has been doing. A lot of businesses who never wanted to sell, small businesses who just basically relied on foot traffic, they realize that now there has to be a different way of doing things, where you're gonna have to be able to look after people who want stuff delivered, or people don't want to come into your place, or you're gonna have to manage people coming in differently at a different rate. Those businesses that figure it out, I think, are going to be the ones that do the best. They're going to be the ones, people, all sorts are going to survive. Of course, you're going to see some business going out. From an agency perspective, if you're not thinking about that, if you're not thinking about, how, what customers think about brands, what customers are looking for in terms of products, how they're going to get that product, how they're going to get that service, their media consumption habits, you're going to run into trouble, just as an agency. I think from an agency perspective, I think there's, and we've been on this collision course for a number of years, right? I fully expect, every agency's been talking about getting digital forever. We've just been hearing the drum beat louder, right? And agencies who used to classify themselves as one thing now to classify themselves as something else, because, as clients, maybe look to, bring stuff in-house, or look for a different partnership level, or look for, there's a specialist agency that comes up, like, you mentioned, some agencies will go out of business, but that's probably going to spawn a bunch of little agencies out there, little boutique agencies, super boutique agencies, like, or not super boutique, but like micro pop-up, where they're going to be coming into the market because they're going to be fresh, and they're going to be able to have all the good ideas that a bigger agency had, and they're going to find a niche in the marketplace. So this kind of collision course that, we've kind of been having, but I just think is going to be sped up, as everybody is going to be kind of centering in around certain principles, that have a lot of digital components to them, that start to look at the whole customer experience. Now, whether or not they can do them is going to be different, there, and also how you understand the platforms, because as customer habits change, how well do you actually know how social platforms work, or how well do you know how data works, or how well do you know how Shopify works? How well do you understand customer habits and the impact that it has, in terms of, kind of where clients should be spending their media dollars, or where they should be having expenditures in terms of, technology frameworks, or what have you. I just think it's more of what people have been saying. I just think it's going to be a hell of a lot faster than what anybody anticipates. And the dollars are definitely smaller out there for a lot of brands, just because we talked about before, the revenue's there, and you can't blame a business. Any business that has to furlough employees, that's a tough decision. Yeah. Any business that has to, close up shop, that, these aren't decisions made lightly. These are decisions that are made because there's just problems from a business perspective. So the question is, how do you fit into that market, and how do you kind of stand out? And I think it's going to be pretty crowded for the next little while, but I wouldn't make a prediction as to when it's going to snap back. People talk about V's and W's and swooshes, and going to be back by September, going to be back by January. Won't, no one's going to be back. Every industry is going to be different. Every region is going to be different. Yeah. It's going to be tough. That's a big blathering non-answer.
No. You touched on a few things there, and there are things that I'm seeing as well, this has. If people were thinking about digital and a digital transition, or maybe they've started and they're not there yet, and really, what does that mean, and what does it mean for businesses? It's certainly, it's become more of the conversation, and it's certainly more of what businesses are looking at and considering, and so. At least for those of us in the digital space, there's always opportunities in these trying times too, and out of something like this, those might be opportunities that we look for, and I mean, even in my small town here, Kelowna, it's there are small businesses that are looking at their websites, looking at social, looking at what they're doing, and I believe that before we walk through that door of that retail space, or wherever we might be going, maybe it's even our mechanic or whatever, we're probably going to be looking online and seeing what that looks like, seeing what their policies are like, and how they do business before we walk through that door, even more so than perhaps what we did prior to this.
Oh no, absolutely. I know people personally affected by this. I've got a brother who lives in Kelowna. Small business owner, Beer Institute, down by the Grand, in the Okanagan Grand there.
Is that still by Tree Beer, owned by Tree?
No, it's separated, I think. So
that's your brother's place.
so my brother has that, and you've got an establishment that's basically a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
So and they're getting rather ingenious and looking at things and trying to look at different things, like everybody is in that industry. And got a fantastic product. The barriers to get to that product are very well known by all of us, and I think every small business is the same. And there's not every kind of small business can afford an agency either, right? Like, that's because they just don't have the disposable income, or they can't basically look at how that's going to relate to their business building. And I do think there's a lot more tools out there that are really good for self-service for smaller businesses. There's a lot that they can do, with just some off-the-shelf tools that helps them from a marketing perspective, buying and placing media on Facebook, and looking at Twitter, and looking at platforms like Shopify, but you've got to get in there and do it. Like, they're not any different than, it's about scale, right? When you're looking at a bigger company, maybe it's more complex, or there's just larger platforms you have to play with, or the reach, because you're going national, like the media budgets are bigger.
Yes.
But the principles kind of are the same, which is do you have a product or service that people want, and how are you actually communicating that, and how are you getting it out to them? And then if they want it, how are you making sure they get it as easy as possible? And it's the ingenuity that people have to deploy against that, and it's not easy. So
yeah. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I hope it's been great for you. I really appreciate your time.
You know what? It was great. It was nice to. I mean, we've met. We've done some work together with your group. You guys do great work. So and I think it's always good to talk about business and talk about customers and whatever. I don't do a lot of these things, so thank you for being patient with my blathering. I know I keep being told by our PR group that I've got to do more. So
yes,
this is a nice first test run. So we'll see. If you have to pull it down, I know that basically there's a problem. I'll have to go back and figure out how it works. So anyway.
Yeah, no, this is great. And the next conversation, maybe it won't be over Zoom. Maybe it'll be a beer at your brother's place. Who knows?
Well, it'd be good. It's great beer.
Yes, it is.
I'd love that. It'd be, nice to get to Kelowna. And like you're saying, I think you're asking all the right questions. It's just, it's a tough time for all of us, and we're just going to have to get really creative. So good luck. And
creative and fight.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
Get out
so
there and do what you do.
yeah, yeah. So I really appreciate you asking me. It was a great conversation. Thanks a lot, and looking forward to raising a glass at some point.
That'd be great. Enjoy your evening, Chris.
All right, thanks. All right, bye bye.
Bye for now.